Okay, it is 12:02. I will call this meeting to order. Who would like to do our land acknowledgement? Because Jace was going to do it. Stacy, can you please do our land acknowledgement?
Good afternoon. I certainly can. Sturgeon Public Schools respectfully acknowledges that we teach, learn, and grow together on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We honor and respect the history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have called this land home for countless generations. We recognize the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Inuit for their care, love, and stewardship of this place. We are grateful to those who share their knowledge with us and help to foster a respectful relationship with all of our relatives on this land. We are committed to understanding the harms done in the name of education and continuing to learn to honor the true spirit of Treaty 6 as a promise of friendship, collaboration, and peaceful alliance.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, can I get an approval of the agenda with a motion? Trish? All in favor? Carried. No appointments. We have to do the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on May 24th. Does anybody have any errors or omissions on it? Can I get a motion to approve? Tasha? Oops.
I will move to approve the minutes as presented from the regular meeting.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the special meeting. Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2, approval of the minutes of the special board meeting on June 14th, 2023.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous? We will now have our presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, trustees. We are very honored to share this afternoon with you to be able to highlight the work of education planning this year. My name is Shannon Campbell-Requa, and I am the Director of Education Planning, and it is my great pleasure to allow members of our team to introduce themselves.
I'm Nicole Farwells. I'm the Curriculum Coordinator here.
I'm Courtney Kerr. I'm the Educational Technology Lead.
As you can see on the forms that we've shared, we have put some reference points, so they're faces to names. Unfortunately, today, Taryn Donald has a medical conflict and sends her regrets, but I'll work really hard to bring the life of our Indigenous education team to life for you today. This is just going to work for me. Okay, we thought we'd start with just a very quick touch point on the vision for education planning. So really, by bringing the education plan outcomes to life, our team helps to support optimum learning. We do this through quality leading and optimum learning, bringing the board's mission, vision, and values to life. It's our job to support and empower teachers and leaders to leverage research-based, evidence-informed best practice through modeling quality teaching. So essentially, everything we do is designed to be done the way we hope that teachers can work with their students. At the end of the day, we believe that Sturgeon Public students deserve the very best. So throughout the presentation, we'll invite you to watch for evidence of us establishing clear goals, evidence of us bringing the mission, vision, and values to life, evidence of us modeling best practice, evidence of us creating experiential or active, hands-on, engaging learning experiences for our staff, and evidence of us making direct impact for students. Without getting too technical, we really did want to draw a through line between the work that we do at central office, the work that school leadership does, and the work that happens in classrooms for students. We believe that when we align this work with the vision, mission, and values of our school division, that is when we will see true movement towards our ultimate goal of optimum learning for students. And now we have the opportunity to get into some of the fun stuff. So besides providing direct support to school leaders, our team designs and leads out many initiatives to foster leadership development throughout the division. The primary goal for intentional leadership development is to empower and support Sturgeon-grown leaders to become competent and capable. One of the main ways we do this is through our leadership PD rather. Leadership PD happens over the course of 11 afternoons throughout the school year. It's a monthly touch point for principals to connect, to be exposed to evidence-informed practice, and to discuss topics that are relevant to their development as leaders in our school division. When we ask leaders about generally what SPS is doing well, PD surfaced as a recurring theme, and we were really proud of that. One of our principals went as far as to mention that those through lines or connections between research and practice really helps to support their teacher buy-in, which again was really reinforcing to us as a team. We'll continue to make those through lines as we move forward. As we continue on the dimension of developing leaders in Sturgeon, we look at our VP cohort and SALT, which are two distinct groups. Our VP cohort this year met 3 times over the course of the year, and we had support from Dr. Carolyn Cameron, who's a published author. Their focus was on an instructional leadership. And then this year was the second year of our Sturgeon Aspiring Leadership Team. So this is focused for aspiring leaders in the division. And I'd like to give credit to Dan Stephen for his leadership and continued commitment to SALT as we move forward with this initiative. I thought this was a great illustrative quote from one of the participants. SALT gave me a window into school leadership, and it inspired me to dream big for my career. Really, us trying to create those spaces for aspiring leaders to develop their skills. Another cohort that we run on the other spectrum of things is our beginning teachers cohort. So this is an opportunity for us to draw formal mentorship for beginning teachers and to provide a cohort that meets 4 times yearly and covers a variety of topics that are relevant to new teachers. The image that you see here is actually a product that was developed in the cohort. So this year's beginning teachers created a guide for next year's beginning teachers after they've had the year-long experience and really wanted to share their learning. They wanted to inspire future new teachers to take risks, to collaborate, to foster meaningful relationships, be flexible and adaptable, and of course, to take care of themselves. We can see some through lines to our vision, mission, and values in that work right there. Next, I'll invite Nicole to come up and highlight some of the work of learning coaches.
There we go. It's working just really, it's enthusiastic. Okay, so as curriculum coordinator, I'm not as tall as Shannon. There we go. So my primary job here was to support the learning coaches, to build and implement plans for new curriculum, and to support the learning interruption grant funding from Alberta Education. So of course, the leadership development in our division also includes our learning coaches. And this year we were able to meet each month Our topics ranged from coaching conversations, from developing collective efficacy for teachers, and how to support strong teaching strategies through curriculum implementation. And so we framed all of this work through our work with Shelley Moore that we did with the learning services. So that was really exciting. And the learning coaches really are an essential connection point between the division, our schools, and our classroom teachers. And they help us operationalize our division plan as well as their local school plan. So for example, in Redwater, the learning coach there is breathing life into their education plan by bringing teachers together to discuss how literacy education lives across the disciplines and the role that each person plays in supporting students in their reading and writing education. So learning coaches were also integral in supporting the work that we did around both literacy and numeracy. So for literacy support, we brought in Dr. Miriam Ramsey and Michelle Benz, who offered professional development that was available to the teachers all across the division on the layers of reading. And the layers of reading is really a comprehensive understanding of how students come to learn to read. We also offered sessions to the learning coaches and to another literacy lead in each school on the layers of writing, which is deeply woven and interconnected to the layers of reading. And a teacher that attended these professional developments called it some of the best that they received in their 25 years of teaching. And another teacher talked about how she fangirled the whole time she actually met them in June. So it was a pretty exciting and I think positive review. So for numeracy, we took the time to get back to the basic steps that kids move through as they develop their understanding of numbers and number operations. So we did this work in conjunction with both Wild Rose and Wetaskiwin regional divisions. And we based the work on the work of Graham Fletcher, Jessica Shumway, and Pam Harris. And this work has been pivotal, in supporting teachers as they understand how to support kids that have suffered some disruption in their learning over the past 3 years. And it's also supported our conversations regarding assessment. And I'm very excited to see how that's going to move forward next year. You can see a sample of some student work here. And so in September, the teacher said that this student was hesitant to represent their understanding at all, whether through pictures, numbers, or symbols. And the classroom teacher used those strategies and resources that Division has supported, along with the support of her learning coach. And as you can see from this sample, this kiddo is engaging in that pictorial and numerical representation, along with engaging in some really powerful estimation opportunities. And the math might be a tiny bit off, but it's a long way from leaving that page blank. So my second role was to help implement new curriculum. And so for new curriculum, we took kind of a three-pronged approach. And the first one was through professional development for all teachers. So this year we were able to offer over 21 different professional learning sessions, and we had over 400 attendees at these sessions. So that's really exciting. We engaged in learning about a wide range of topics, including first literacy and numeracy, but we also did new resource support involving outdoor learning, Indigenous ways of knowing. This really was one of my highlights. It was really fun to work with teachers in this capacity. There we go. All right. The second spoke of new curriculum is new resources. And so for new resources, we are now able to support over 60 different resources that relate to the new curriculum. And we also have a common math resource, K-6, which is really important for our ability to provide professional development and that collaborative learning time for teachers. And the final spoke of new curriculum were our curriculum working groups. And so we had 7 different groups total, including a working group that was specifically for administration. We had a total of 17 different meetings between all of these groups. And from there, they were able to study the curriculum deeply in order to identify the big rocks that are foundational learning that kids need in order to support the rest of the learning that's in that curriculum. And from this work, they also built sample year plans, and they've started to build rubrics based on Shelley Moore's work that are going to be accessible for teachers throughout the division. And we're also sharing with some other divisions as well. So that's exciting. The work's reaching a wide audience. And the final piece of my role is to support that learning interruption grant. And as you can see, last year when we started this, we had 783 identified needed intervention cases. And after a full year of intervention last year, that number moved down to 391. And so this year, we decided to continue the plan with some minor modifications. So our plan was based on the research in both literacy and numeracy that I referred to earlier. And it included both focused classroom support as well as additional small group support are targeted specifically towards our students that are moving into upper elementary. And our preliminary post results demonstrate that we have further reduced at-risk students over the course of this year. So we're looking forward to getting that final data on Friday.
Although there are many different components to my role as the educational technology lead, I did set out 4 goals for this school year. The first goal was to provide support and learning opportunities for teachers around Power Teacher Pro. Along with offering a session on the Welcome Back PD Day, personalized support was provided to 6 different schools in September and to 2 schools in January. Teachers were consistently contacting me for support, which prompted the creation of how-to documents that are in the assessment hub. Additional support has also been provided when entering marks and comments, as well as troubleshooting errors with report cards over the last few weeks. My relationship that has developed with our SIS coordinator has really been instrumental in ensuring that we have success with this program. My second goal was to ensure that division licenses were well managed and shared with teachers and administrators, and that technology that was already in schools was being used more effectively. In addition to the licenses that were continued from previous school years, an 18-month trial of grade transfer was implemented with our high schools and learning centers. The management and use of iPads is a work in progress with tech services, but after gathering some input from teachers, I've created a list of standard apps for each grade level for kindergarten to grade 3. I've also been able to work alongside learning services to provide apps or programs for accessibility on iPads, Chromebooks, and laptops. In addition, I offered strategies for using Loftboards to teachers at Guthrie and worked with Evolution AV to deliver a PD session on March 13th. My third goal was to promote student engagement and develop technological literacies. This continues to be a work in progress. Ideas for classroom activities were shared with teachers for Media Literacy Week in October, and a parent guide was also created for digital and media literacy that was shared with administrators. Classroom activities for the Hour of Code Week were sent to teachers in December, and STEAM teachers were given an opportunity to collaborate with each other on January 31st. Ongoing support with STEAM education has been given through the use of microbits, Minecraft EDU, and 3D printing. A STEAM cohort was also created in March to begin establishing device and equipment progressions for each grade level and to start planning the STEAM 2023 event. My final goal was to create and execute a successful STEAM event for Sturgeon Public Schools. The intention behind Maker Month was to build capacity in teachers and students in the area of STEAM, as many of these skills were rusty post-COVID. Centering on the engineering design process, students worked in teams to provide creative solutions to various challenges, and the STEAM cohort teachers were willing to step into any school to help support this event. 4 challenges were developed based on the theme play. Student teams could use digital platforms, recycled materials, or a combination to create their final products. For the first challenge option, student teams could create a unique character that served a purpose. For the second challenge, teams could choose to create a playable game that included clear rules and at least 2 players. It could be played in real time. The third challenge option allowed students to create a unique playground with at least 3 playable structures. And the final challenge option allowed students to create anything that could be used to make a public space safer for children or families to use. Judging occurred in each school on their own, where medals were awarded to winning teams in each grade division, and all students were given a participation certificate. Schools that posted their progress to social media were entered into weekly prize draws for microbit kits, and each school that participated received an incentive to enhance their STEAM programming. We had over 560 students from pre-K to grade 9 participate in this event, making it both a success and a highlight for educational technology this year.
Thank you. I'll invite you at this time to perhaps flip over your education planning sheet, because I would like to do a bit of a virtual introduction of the Indigenous education team. So on our Indigenous education team this year, we have Jerome Chabot as Métis Learning Coach, Katie Halubowicz as our Indigenous Student Counselor, John Valliere, our Indigenous Student Success Coach, focused out of Sturgeon Composite High School. And then in addition to the team rather, is Daniel Lehman, our Indigenous Student Success Coach. And next year he will be centered out of Redwater School and Lillian Schick. So I will do my very best to bring to life the work of Indigenous education, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the commitment and dedication of Taryn Donald. She has worked tirelessly this year to really bring to life some of the goals that we have set out for this work. And I could not be more proud of what we have accomplished as a team. Our main goal in Indigenous education was to build capacity in schools through providing professional learning opportunities. So we're really aiming to move forward from targeted days or weeks. These are still important, but we really want to make sure that we're engaging in deeper foundational knowledge and value teachings, leading to a pragmatic shift in decolonizing teacher practice. Really, at the heart of this work, it means that we want to create spaces where all students are welcome and different ways of knowing and learning are recognized and celebrated. Professional learning experiences this year we created opportunities for lots of experiential learning for teachers. There were many opportunities, including blanket exercises, river walks, ribbon skirt workshops, and attending conferences. The ribbon skirt workshops, I'd like to highlight that there were 3 separate workshops that operated over the course of 6 different evenings and served over 35 teachers division-wide. This was an optional event, and we actually had to cap it because there was too much interest. And teachers had to put forth some reasoning behind why they would care to create a ribbon skirt, and the answers were both heartwarming and encouraging because we had so many people committed to this work. I also learned to put up my first teepee this year, so I think I'll add that to my email signature. Okay. Our call to action cohort consists of a lead teacher from each school, as well as our Indigenous EAs who work with Indigenous students throughout the division. We also, of course, included our Indigenous education team at these meetings. The cohort is a way to build capacity, again, with experiential learning in a really focused and targeted manner. The idea is a cascade model. So these teachers come as learners, they participate collaboratively, then they're able to bring back what they've learned to their schools and teach their colleagues elbow to elbow at the school sites. This year, the cohort met 5 times. They participated in learning at the Musée Héritage, the Indigenous Peoples Experience at Fort Edmonton Park. They were shared a smudge teaching and learned about treaty. There was an art and drumming workshop offered by Eugene Alexis, who is a partner from Alexis First Nation. And we also visited the Sacred Land site in Edmonton, which is the first sacred land in an urban center in Canada. Shifting to Indigenous education for student success. Our primary goal was to create increased visibility of student success. So working directly with students through the success coaches at both Redwater and Sturgeon Composite High School, and as well as the work of our Indigenous counselor at Camilla and Four Winds. Students were provided with safe spaces to access academic and social support. We had regular meetings with our partners at Alexander First Nation and Kapotikaw Education Center to align goals and ensure that appropriate supports were in place for First Nation students, both belonging to Alexander First Nations and those who belong to other nations or have other Indigenous identity. The evolution of the the evolution of the success coach role has allowed us to provide more individualized success tracking, so we can actually work alongside students to help them achieve their personal goals and to support their holistic wellness. There is a dedicated space in both high schools where students can feel that they are represented and safe. And that's a major accomplishment because we haven't always had that in the past. Students are able to access smudging in all schools throughout the division at request, and there is increased visibility through artwork, language, and use of resources. A variety of students this year were able to participate in river walks, blanket exercises, land-based learning opportunities. I'd like to highlight that this year, 10 schools participated in culture camps with Alexander First Nation, by far exceeding any other connection points that we've been able to accomplish in the past. We're particularly proud of this. The participating schools had very positive experiences, although they were somewhat apprehensive. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive with a strong desire to continue this for next year. Students were also high school students were also invited to participate in a ribbon skirt workshop, and this was particularly meaningful as many of the students who participated described understanding their Indigenous identity, but not being connected to culture. So the fact that we could bring this to them in their place of learning was incredibly powerful. And you can tell by the smiles on the faces of the young individual women here who sewed those skirts themselves, that the sense of accomplishment and pride in their culture was just evident. We were also able to connect with our community partners in Alexander. We participated in learning experiences, cultural experiences, and participated through attending powwow and feasts. So again, really supporting that true relational connection point with our neighbors. And I love this picture because it shows the horse therapy. And there were several teachers who were very apprehensive to have students participate in horse therapy from an Indigenous perspective. And it was hugely successful with students really thriving and loving the opportunity. So I'd like to just take one last moment to acknowledge the hard work of our team this year. We set some lofty goals, hit many of them, have some that we continue to work towards. But if it weren't for the team effort of this group of motivated, determined, and extremely competent individuals, I wouldn't be standing right now, never mind presenting to you a presentation that I do feel truly proud of. Thank you for the opportunity to share our work, and we really look forward to being able to answer any questions that you may have.
I was just gonna say, any questions? Stacy?
Stacy Bucher, Ward 5. First, thank you, Courtney. I'm sure that right now with Power School being like, everybody's waiting for their report cards. Today is a very busy day, I'm sure, in your office, and thank you for taking the time to be here to present to us. And to all of you for joining us. This was a fantastic presentation. The Maker initiative through the schools through May, I was lucky enough to judge at one of my schools for one of the divisions, and the excitement that the kids felt for those projects and what the purpose behind them. They weren't just fooling around with recycled goods. They actually took to heart what the purpose of that was, to make something safer or to have an inclusive playground. it was really great to see that they learned a lot from it beyond just the STEM techniques. I do have a question for school transition. You touched a bit on, you know, a lot of groups are having meetings through the year, and there's the learning coaches. And I know some of our schools change schools at grade 4 and some at grade 6. And so there's some differentiation within the new curriculum of when kids are moving. And I'm just wondering how those pieces are making sure that we're connected within all of our schools, because sometimes they look a little different on those transitions.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think, pardon me, Trustee Buga, I just want to make sure that I can address the question. So it's around how are we approaching curriculum that is being rolled out K-3 and 4-6 when we have these school environments that are K-4 and 5-9. Okay, perfect. And I think primarily, bringing the content groups together, like those cohort working groups in their content area, has been like this major lever. And then including the next grade up, so having opportunities for those grade 4 teachers to collaborate have been made possible. It's an interesting dynamic in our division where we do have those separations. Now that the 4-6 curriculum has rolled out, we were able to run the 4-6 curriculum working groups this year. So this year we saw the completion of K-6. So we'll be able to move forward as a united group next year into the work. I don't know, Nicole, I'll invite you to add anything.
No, I would just reiterate that those curriculum working groups, because they're all teachers from each building coming together, that I think that's been that natural touch point where they can ask those questions about how has this lived in your building, and what advice would you have? And that's been also something that the learning coaches we've really focused on. So the K-4 learning coaches, and then we brought together our 5-9 learning coaches, and we basically had a day where a big piece of it was like, well, I called it, speed dating to start with, but it was, really sharing that advice in terms of like something that you learned through curriculum implementation. What would you, if you could give some advice to someone who's about to start this journey, what would you say? And kind of vice versa, what's a burning question you have that you would really like some information on? So we just tried to create as many opportunities for people in different buildings to come together and to ask those questions. And then sometimes, right, I know a question that they're going to have that they don't know they're going to have yet, and then I try to bring that to the surface. But otherwise, it was just really letting them collaborate.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. This was perfect timing for the educational planning session, so I'm glad we got to end the school year with it. My question for you is, and you mentioned it slightly at the end, Shannon, but if you had an opportunity to do one more thing this year or add one more resource of any variety, what would it be?
Oh, I can answer this. Like, it's time. We just need more time, and I suspect that's not likely what you were looking for. But we have treasured and valued the time where we could actually be together to like planning and designing is one thing, but actually bringing these pieces to life through action is where we need the time. Like, we need to invest in that. We're also all new in these roles, and so we're creating structures, which again, it just takes longer. And so I'm so excited for next year because we have some foundations to build upon. But man, if like we could squeeze in 2 weeks between tomorrow and Friday, I feel like there could be some exciting things coming out of those 2 weeks.
I don't think I can help with that.
No.
But if you figure out how to do it, let me know.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. Mine's a comment. I really enjoyed your presentation, and my comment was going to be, I'm so impressed on how often you are meeting with the school cohorts, because that is where it's going to happen. It's wonderful to have these initiatives at central office, but you are immersed in the schools with people that are with students. So thank you.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4, and I guess this is mostly for Ms. Kerr. the word technology in your title. That word scares me. Everyone knows I'm a dinosaur, but I'm hearing a lot about AI these days. So just wondering, how does that fit into our division? How does that fit into teaching our kids? How does it fit into our schools?
Thank you. So there is a lot going on in the AI world. I mean, I was first introduced to ChatGPT in February, and it has exploded since then. With its constant evolution, it's quite challenging to stay on top of all of the things that it is capable of doing. I am in the process of hopefully putting together a PD session for our Welcome Back PD Day to offer to our teachers. And we are really looking at what kind of guidelines we can put together for administrators that are using it, for teachers that are using it, and for students that are using it. So there's a lot of research that I have yet to do about all of the things that are going on, but I am getting information from many different sources, whether it's podcasts that are being shared or articles through research or even Facebook groups for educators that are providing some amazing materials and suggestions. And so although we don't have guidelines established for that yet, I'm hoping that we will get to that place where we can at least provide some sort of process or structure for our stakeholders to be using when they are interacting with these resources.
Janine, you had a question?
I do, thank you. Janine Peckwin, Ward 1. So your learning interruption support slide was 783 kids and now 391. What age group is that? Is that like K to 12, K to 3, K to 4?
Sure. And those numbers are a little bit, the reason why we call them like cases is because sometimes it's a single student that is requiring intervention in both literacy and numeracy. And so in that case, they count as two cases. So it's not 789 kids, it's 789 kind of identified opportunities for intervention. And so last year that stretched from grades 1 to 3. And then from this year, because it's following the same kids, that's grades 2 through 4.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Okay, well, thank you. And yeah, it was your first year and you like blew the bar. So I look forward to what next year brings. Okay, we will move on to 7.1, which is the annual reports off campus. Jonathan.
Sorry, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information is our annual report summarizing the various activities of off-campus. That would be RAP and work experience and green certificate programs, and also dual credit programs, some of which do occur after school hours, but occur with our post-secondary partners, right, at different colleges and so on. It's organized in number of students and engagements around Redwater. So you can see under work experience and career internship, the variety of businesses that we're connected to. And when I say connected, I mean our students are in and our supervisors are working with to make sure the environment is safe, learning is in place, and then these young people have experience there. You can see the RAP experience students that are working out of Redwater. And some of those students also engage in our dual credit, right? They were part of the what's the one at Olds? Oh, Vet Tech and technology, but also in the new advanced welding. I'll remind the board that we piloted our advanced welding dual credit opportunity this year with NAIT, first division in the province to work with NAIT in a dual credit program. And many of those students did come from Redwater as well. You can see we have a green certificate student, and then kind of a summary of the credits that students earn, which are important for their high school and success now as it's in workforce credits. As you look through the Sturgeon Composite High School, larger number of kids. But it is, I suggest to the board here that it's encouraging to see that our numbers are strong and have improved. Again, the variety of business connections that we have, the different groups that we're involved in. And in this one, if we keep going, sorry, I keep going through RAP and whatnot, I'm trying to get to the summary that I want to build for all schools, but I think it really highlights what we've lived through. If you look back at 1920 heading into the pandemic, we had 216 kids and some learning center young people engage in this type of work. And then you can see that it did go through some challenge. It was tougher to make connections, to stay out. And then you can see we're right back up. In fact, we're significantly exceeding, especially the learning centers, even what we were pre-pandemic. So I suggest to the board that this is an encouraging direction as we see it as valuable. We've heard it from we've heard it from the board table before. That we need to be committed to our communities, to our businesses, and to encourage our young people to understand the work that is around them and to succeed in the communities that they are a part of. And I believe the off-campus especially speaks to that. And I think dual credit speaks to how to encourage them to engage in most post-secondary schools. It's not captured in this report, but I want to share as information with the board. This year, a lot of this work went under Chantal Cadieux, and we're very thankful. We had a person really driving this work forward. On reflection of that, we saw it was important to have someone in each of our schools. So next year, we are having an FTE assigned into Sturgeon Composite, into Redwater, into the learning centers, and then leadership being provided out of the principal from the learning centers. And I also want to thank Carrie Morgan when the last few months, actually, she's been working with Chantal and moving us forward into the dual credit part. So she'll also be doing some leadership. So I'd just like you to be aware that we have more of a team. And so we'll have more capacity with who is doing the work and understanding than we did this year. But I'm encouraged by the numbers that we have been able to support for kids this year. Willing to take questions.
And I would just like to add and thank the team. We actually just had a recent meeting, and so this board, as the board's focus is to improve relationships with our municipalities and all of our stakeholders. Other part of this initiative is we've been sitting down to brainstorm the importance of our principals attending Chambers of Commerce meetings, getting connected to the businesses, looking at our 4-H clubs across the province. What's the connection between that and our Green Certificate program? So we've set some lofty goals, and hence why our deputy just talked about a team approach, because we're really looking at across meeting with and remember we met with Sturgeon County, even with those focuses. So we're very excited about the future of building the connections with our municipalities so that we can actually grow this programming. And we know that this is also the will of the board. So there's some exciting things that we look forward to as we grow our effective relationships to do what's best for our students.
Cindy?
I was at a meeting the other night at Sturgeon County at the Community Service Advisory Board meeting, and the JET program, they had an overwhelming response. They had to cap it and cut it off because there was so many youth looking for volunteering for the summer programs. They were overwhelmed. So yay to all our young students that are involved in volunteering in Sturgeon County. Stacey?
Stacey Buger, Ward 5. Just out of curiosity, I know that with dual credit, we've got agreements with different schools, and I'm just curious where the American Sign Language fits in. That there's welding, there's veterinary, there's horticultural crops. Just curious where ASL fits into one of the programs.
Thanks, John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. With an answer, which is I'd like to come back, if I may, to the board and share each of the colleges that we're involved with and what courses that they offer to help provide that direct understanding, both for ASL, but for other colleges, so you can see the variety of programming dual credit offers.
Okay, thank you. 7.2. Oh, sorry, Janine.
I wasn't really sure if I had a question or not anyway. So I know in past years there was significant cuts, so we kind of slowed down on the dual credits and because there was some funding questions of how those things work. So how is that working nowadays, if that's information that we know?
Thanks, Trustee Pequin. John Conrad, Deputy. I think we've shared at the board table before, and if not, I would like to let the board know that Alberta Education still does not fund a like a per CEU count as they had in the past, or something that would have direct money to fund a tuition agreement with one of these post-secondaries. However, they have established 2 grants for dual credits. One is an enhancement and one is an initiative. It's not quite called that, but startup, thank you. Startup. And the enhancement grant provides funds to continue to develop if we have a partnership, like if we want to, and we are looking to expand the welding next year with NAIT. So an enhancement grant would allow us to start another cohort. There might be some equipment we need to make that happen. And the startup is what we use. Well, just to start, that's bad to use the same example. Sorry to use the same example with 2 different grants. Right now, they have also allowed us to use those grants to cover the tuition agreements. So right now, that's working. If those grants go away, and we've applied for 2 more for next year as well, to continue to have funding in place for all the development work, the course writing, the curriculum, there's those kinds of things, all the equipment work that we need, but also to cover the tuition costs. So right now, we are growing the program and we are paying our bills. But I'll remind the board that if those grants, if we were unsuccessful in applying, right now, we absolutely receive no additional instructional grant money for these additional courses that our kids are doing with NAIT or with Olds or with Lakeland. So we continue to encourage our Alberta Education, but also any political partners to say this is phenomenal work and we need sustainable, predictable funding that says if we have 15 kids taking welding from NAIT and NAIT says, here's the bill because our teacher taught them, that's paid for, not removed from our instructional grant, that there's additional dollars. Did that help?
It helped, Jonathan, but it just triggered another question. All right, worst case scenario, let's say that happened. What would we need to have put aside or have available to continue if that was the will of the board?
I would suggest we actually at this point cannot answer that question, but I suggest that, as you know, with our shift in government, that they did have the task force. There was a lot of work around this, but it's been very quiet since the election ended. And I would suggest as a board, this is something you have to keep your eyes on as we move forward to find out what does funding look like in education, because it has gone quiet. So it was very hot for a while. The task force, they've kind of finished that to talk about it. But with the collegiate schools coming out and these different types of schools, we are in a very interesting place. And if you remember, we were doing so great because we were CEU funded, as John said. But as soon as that CEU funding went away, all of a sudden we were quiet and pulled it back. Remember, we were very, very quiet. And then they came out with these grants. So we were very fortunate they've continued the grants and been a little more flexible. And we've done great work. But this is, if they go away, it's not sustainable. We can't do this. The tuition is not cheap. And so we're also not at a place where we can just go and keep expanding these because there is no coverage of the tuition part. So I would just suggest that task force would be something, because I know that this board in particular had close connections to it, that we keep a close eye on it and that we actually try to keep it in the forefront of the political landscape so that we continue to talk about it.
Thanks, Shauna.
Hey, thank you. 7.2 communications report. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information is our monthly communication report aligned with the goals expressed for this year. Highlighting again, if anyone online is listening and hasn't subscribed to our newsletter, I encourage them to do so, as I believe it is an excellent source to highlight some of the activities, definitely with an angle to the positive and the exciting activities that are happening around our division. In May and June, certainly in June, we did focus on some of our Pride activities and to encourage the trustees to have looked at the activities going on in schools, because these are about understanding, accepting, and celebrating the uniqueness and diversity that are present in our schools and present in our communities. We also did many activities focused on Indigenous Peoples Month. That was actually highlighted quite well with the ed planning presentation that you saw here as well. Moving through the report, you'll see we also hosted 2 open houses for the CASA mental health classrooms to try to unpack for our community and for our parents how this work can be supportive for students with mental health needing supports, and how that could look and does look in our school. It was really an information night so that people would have a better understanding. Continue to celebrate Landing Trail's 40th. I was part of some of the daytime activities, but I heard that the evening activities were actually the place to be because that was where I believe the fire trucks came and ran a barbecue, and it was just good to be together and have a dance and really celebrate how meaningful it is in our community to have a longstanding school. As we do, we try to share when we've been mentioned or called out in the media. This isn't us taking out ad space. Instead, this is us just being recognized and celebrated. And as we're heading into summer, there's not a long list of upcoming events. Instead, there's Friday and then, hey, welcome back. So thanks for the report, and I can take any questions.
Stacy.
Stacy Buger, Ward 5. Just out of curiosity, I know that Landing Trail did a lot of work towards their 40th anniversary and rebranding and the new logo and everything. With Ochre Park also celebrating 40 years. Just curious if they maybe weren't going quite as public. Is that why we didn't see as much about, or I personally didn't see as much about Ochre Parks in our social media?
Yeah, yes, that is correct. And one thing that we are learning is, the division are the communications piece. It has morphed greatly this year. And I think part of that work, which actually Mr. Conrad should speak to, but that we are with a division position, that can't do everything for all schools. And I think that was one thing that's a learning for us this year, is to prioritize and put in place some structure for our schools to understand, the grassroots, and to support people there so that they can get out the local voice, and then what's the division guidance. So we're still working on that framework, and hence why it was not uniform, because it's impossible with how many schools we have to have a communications department of one promoting all schools. So we had a lot of learnings from this year, and I think Mr. Conrad can speak more to that as to moving forward. But yes, it would be more when it's locally driven. That's when it gets pushed out more.
I'll let Janine go first.
Ochre Park celebration was also a smaller scale than Gibbons. So, I mean, it won't get as much coverage because we just did like a Touch a Truck event and had community members invited to come out, but it was not on the scale of the all-day events that Landing Trails was. But stay tuned in 10 years for their 50th, because there's plans in the works for that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Trustee Pecklin, for highlighting that a lot of the celebration was relying on the volunteer hours of school and staff, and Landing Trail is a larger school, a larger staff, and they had larger event. But I just want to touch on what our superintendent mentioned, and you may recall a lot of things going through the budget. I'm sure you recall that we did talk about additional support into communications, and a clear focus of that additional support person who is beginning in August will be to get into schools, to work alongside schools, because right now everything is very busy and well intentioned, and in some places you have people who are very keen at social media or highlighting the good work, and other places the good work is there, like the good work is there, but maybe don't have the skill set or the time. And so that is definitely one of the asks of the person coming into the communication department to build that capacity and to work in schools.
Rich.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. Well, and I had wanted to say thank you to the communications director for their work. Because what they are doing, I think it is very obvious that they're helping to make the whole division feel more connected. And a really good example of that was in June at my Sturgeon Heights School Council, when some of the parents were all excited because some of the pictures from trustee talks were from Sturgeon Heights. And it really makes the St. Albert people feel they're part of our division. And it's fantastic to see. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, thanks. 7.3 monthly financial report. Lynn. Oh, sure, you want to go first? Okay.
Thank you. I did ask our Director of Finance to please come and speak to our monthly financial report.
Lynn Chaston, Director of Finance. May is just a tough and challenging time of year for overall financial reporting. This is due to the work we do in the division. Some of it's a 10-month and some of it's a 12-month environment. And this is reflected in the report. The government funding we've received currently is at 75% of the budget, which is 12/12. And a lot of our area and local expenditures are 10 months. So that's 10/12. So that's 90%. So they've done 90% of their spending, but we've only received 75% of the funding. So that does reflect. And once we've added back the portion of the PUF deferred funding and offset the capital costs with the capital reserves, this should be in line to meet our ministerial approvals, just of $2 million. And now time administration is prepared to take any questions.
Trish.
So I hope that answered my question, which was 4.17 million deficit. And then I look back at last month and it was only 1.9 and I thought, huh, so we are going to catch up is what you're telling me?
Lynn Chaston, Director of Finance. Yes, we should be at the end of the day caught up. This is just a very volatile time just with our funding and the way people spend money.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. 7.5 Administrative Procedure 860. Oh, sorry, I checked off 7.4, sorry. 7.4 Monthly IT Report. Jonathan.
Thanks, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information is our monthly IT report. And the unique part is always the paragraph up front. So I'll just speak to, we're heading into summer, which is actually a very busy time for technology services to be in our schools. One project that we're doing is we are putting significant number, like 53 loft boards into schools that in the past, a few that had gone with projectors instead of loft boards, and now they're going to have some classroom with loft to see what that instruction looks like and see if we can continue to do that. Some schools that didn't quite complete the number of classroom with loft boards. So that needs to all occur in summer. And given the number of tech team, I'll let the board know clearly that this is a contract services. So our tech team is coordinated, has done all the site visits actually with operation and maintenance as well. Will this wall bear the weight of a loft board? Does it not? That kind of thing. Where does the teacher want it? All that work has been done and they will oversee it, but it will be under contract, just to be clear. And another one was actually touched upon with the ed tech part of ed planning, which is iPads. We have iPads in our schools, and some schools, because of local expertise, have maintained their iPads and they're well distributed and kept up to date. And other schools, they don't have as much technical experience and they've fallen away. And what's happened now in the last 2 months, I'm going to say, technology services has focused on really going out to schools, talking to teachers. Where are the iPads? How many iPads? Where? And so 100 doesn't look like a lot, but actually we're going to be doing 100 in summer and then another like almost 3/4 of the current number of iPads we're looking at evergreening next year with a clearer management strategy so that we can keep them up to date and keep common apps. And it's a partnership between the ed tech and the technology services, because we need them to understand what's in the school and how to do it technically, and we need teachers and to be part of what we're supporting. So that's the main work right now heading into summer, in addition to all of the other tech things they'll try to do in classrooms and schools and whatnot. And then provided with the report is always the uptime, And as you see, the number of devices that we'll have to keep track of and refresh. And I've again asked about Four Winds and why we're not in the printing. And it actually turns out that Xerox, and I feel like I want to drive out and look at the machine myself. But what I've heard very clearly is that this machine does not in any way generate a monthly report. So we can't just add it to the number, whatever. We have to, it generates a lifetime report. So for as long as that machine has ever been on, it tells you, but it doesn't timestamp it. It doesn't. So what you would have to do is every month go in, run this report, and the next month, and then do a difference all by hand, which we might get to. But right now, it's not part of the software. So right now, we're not pulling the data. So prepared to take other questions.
Cindy.
Just a question about the printer fleet. Camilla seems to be going through a lot of copies. They're at 63,958. And I'm just wondering what's going on. That number just kind of stood out to me a little bit. So education printing is good, but that seems to be a lot.
Rather than comment on any one school, I will share, though, if I may, that we brought this to our administrators with a challenge to us to look at ways to address printing in the division. In the times past, and I'm just saying now, like across my education career as a teacher and whatnot, negative constraints, like you say, you can only print this much and here's your code, somehow doesn't reduce printing. So we're looking for like a positive, like, okay, this is just some ideas that came from the admin table. We haven't committed to this, but I'm just sharing. Well, what if we looked at and per pupil, this is what we print this month, and then we had some kind of celebration for the school that could reduce it by the greatest percent in the next month or whatnot, because we do see the environmental impact of this and we do see the expense impact on this. So I don't know the specific activities. Any school I suggest that has new curriculum will be looking probably like printing is a bit of a reassuring thing for a number of stuff. Like I can see it here, it's with me here, it's not going to, that kind of thing. So I know that new curriculum is driving some of our printing costs, but I would have to investigate anything specific, but I wanted to share with the group. This happened at our last admin council. We brought it up and we said, how can we do better? And let's look at a way to do it together. Thanks.
And I don't mean to single out one school. The number just seemed quite high. And I'm all about students having concrete stuff in front of them. But yeah, it's like you brought up really valid points. So thank you.
I have a question. Do I not see Landing Trail on that printer fleet list? Okay, I'm like, is it me? Okay. Okay, I now will go to 7.5, Administrative Procedure 860. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent, and this is one of those times when reports of information, this one almost should follow the discussion that could occur around the policy because it follows the policy change that you'll be looking at later. It's an illustrative example of how we've changed this particular admin procedure to ensure, and I think it's, if you look under the recognition award part, starting at 10 and 10.1, to try to inform the board, this is how we have discussed with principals. We're going to go forward with recognizing every year in all of our schools a significant individual or group or organization or business that has furthered our mission, vision, values in our division. I don't want to get ahead of the policy, but I suggest the intent or believe the intent is we are doing this in our schools, but we need to be consistently doing it and in all our schools. And so having it here in a procedure that we will follow will encourage all of our admin and will ensure it happens. Prepared to take questions on the AP?
I have a question or comment. I'm not sure which it is. With the plaque Will someone in central office order enough for all the schools?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we did discuss that as a min, and we wanted it to be a consistent plaque in every location, so it is the same. It's not this school loves this design of oak and this likes this other design. It will be a consistent plaque.
Thank you. No other questions? Okay. Okay. 8.1, the chair's report. My written report will be submitted and online. The only thing I just wanted to speak on is that June was a full month of awards and PD. Feel it was a PD award month. So it was a good month, a positive month. And it was great. We're going to start different, and I'm going to start to my left with Tasha.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I don't have anything distinctly different to add to the events already outlined in the written reports. However, I wanted to take an opportunity to provide a shout out to our counterparts at Greater St. Albert Catholic School Division, who we met with earlier this month, and just to comment on what a positive, refreshing and productive meeting it was, and how nice it was to actually work toward that relationship establishment and building. Thank you.
Thanks. Joe.
The report's handed in and a bunch of schools. So thanks, Tom. It's pretty busy time. Lots of.
Janine.
If I could just send a reminder that if you turn on your microphone when you're talking, it's way easier for people online to hear you. Sorry about that. I submitted my report. Some of my highlights was Redwater grad. It was amazing to watch those convocation ceremonies, and it's a highlight of my June for sure. I've had award ceremonies, which I'm leaving this meeting early to attend Oka Park's award ceremony. And then to touch on Oka Park's 40th birthday, they organized a Touch a Truck event. So they had combines and a Zamboni and, fire trucks, other tractors, little skid steer. I don't know what all of the equipment is called. I'm so sorry that I'm not farm equipment technological, whatever. But so they had that from 3 till 5, and then so the kids really enjoyed that, being able to get on the equipment. And then in the school they had photo albums from when Oka Park first opened and when they had the playground. The hype team was there with kids for the game, or with games for the kids. There was drinks and refreshments, and it was a very low-key 40th celebration party, but the one teacher and the EA did an excellent job of organizing, so it was great to be a part of. And then, like I said, everything else is on my written report.
Thank you. Stacy.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I've submitted my report and I managed to keep it on one page, but it's been a really busy month. Some of the extras, like I mentioned before, I was invited to judge the Maker Division 1, so the grade 1 to 3s at MPS, which was really cool. Just amazing to see the kids in action. Four Winds had their Annie production. I don't know if anybody else was able to make it. Phenomenal performances. And I'm excited to see that Four Winds, their dance academy, has been kind of touch and go for the last year or two. And because of the success, I think, that they saw through Annie and the whole school really working together, they now have a performing arts academy starting up at Four Winds next year. So I'm excited to see where they go with that and what they perform next time. I also was able to finally do the citizenship ceremony at Four Winds. That was an incredible opportunity for our students to see. It was long. It was a lot for our students, I think. The grade 9s were in attendance in the gym, but I heard fantastic feedback. It was live streamed into all of our classrooms, and the teachers commented that this was really valuable, and to see what multiculturalism looks like in Canada in action instead of in their textbooks, I believe is going to have a meaningful impact on these kids going forward. Shout out staff luncheon at central office was really great. And again, just thank you to everybody here that keeps us, because I know I am constantly asking Crystal or somebody to help me out with various things and just keeping myself on track. And I'm sure that all of us trustees are kind of like cats going in different directions. So I appreciate everybody here at central office for making sure that the wheels keep turning. And I was able to attend all 4 of our grade 12 grads this year, which was incredibly meaningful, and seeing the difference in how our kids go through school and how they end school was amazing. And every single one of them deserves to be celebrated. And I'm really happy that our schools make the effort to do that, because it was great. They all were fantastic. Thank you.
Cindy.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. My report is there for your review. I just want to thank all the staff that put countless hours for all the graduation ceremonies in our division. It doesn't go out unnoticed by any means. The amount of time that you've put in to support our graduates in this division is amazing. My community service advisory board at Sturgeon County, look out for the Wellness on Wheels. It's called the WOW program with Sturgeon County. So they'll be coming to communities. It's listed on the Sturgeon County website. And like I said earlier at the board meeting, the JET program with all the volunteer youth in our division that have volunteered to help with summer programs. Thank you. That is just amazing.
Trish.
Trish Marioni at Ward 4, very busy month with all the fun stuff that we get to do. Sturgeon Heights had volunteer appreciation tea with some student performances, and their grade 9 farewell, which had all their grade 9s dressed up and looking like grown-ups. The Sturgeon Comp High School specialized grad was awesome, even though I arrived late due to a bit of a communication breakdown. It was amazing. It was simple, and I hope that this will be an annual event from now on. The athletic awards at Sturgeon Comp, 9 banners. What more can I say? The music and fine arts awards at Sturgeon Comp was a wonderful showcase of the many talents of our students. Loved it. And staff, of course, yes. And same with the athletic awards. Our coaches are amazing. Had a school council meeting at Sturgeon Heights, just some loose ends we were closing up. The Sturgeon Comp grad was fantastic. It was happy, it was sad, great speeches by everybody, and particularly JP LeBlanc, one of our teachers who gave the tribute to the students. It was just so engaging and awesome. And he said he didn't even want to do it, but he did a fantastic job. And the Sturgeon Heights Awards was today one of my favorite events. So it's been a great month.
Thank you. 8.3 Advocacy Committee. Stacy.
So first, I will just go over our last advocacy committee meeting, which was on June 7th. We discussed the agenda for our meeting with our sister board that happened on June 16th. And I will reiterate that I think that was a really positive meeting, and I'm looking forward to what that brings in the future. We did review the Friends of Education Award for ASBA. We had kind of discussed early this year. We had about a month before the deadline when we had first talked about it and said we don't have enough time to make a meaningful application to this award. So we have asked admin to bring us kind of our top donors from our schools, and so that we can start looking at a bit more fulsome award nomination package next year, possibly in partnership with some of our surrounding boards that have the same companies that are sponsoring public education and really supporting us across the province. We reviewed the staff recognition feedback. and our year-end report, and how we can best recognize our co-chair on Student Advisory Committee, as we have realized how important, well, we always knew student voice was always important, but how much work and how much commitment it took from that co-chair to do the job that he did. We want to make sure that that's recognized going forward as well. So that was another topic of discussion. If anyone has any, oh, and we had also discussed the holiday card artwork search. So as we had mentioned early this year, doing Christmas cards instead of having our mugs on the cover of those Christmas cards, we're going to look at some artwork from our students. So just hammering out how we want that to look and go forward for next year. Does anybody have any questions on the meeting report? Seeing none, I will move on to our year-end report. It's all there in the package for you to take a look. I believe we have checked off most of the boxes that we were hoping to tackle this year on advocacy committee and our work plan. We've met with, or we've joined all of the chambers of commerce, so Fort Saskatchewan, St. Albert, Town of Legal, Morinville, and Redwater Chamber of Commerce, so that we can increase our presence in the business community and create better networks within them. We have held 2 Council of School Councils, which again was an initiative after last year, hoping to increase the parent voice within the division as well. We had municipal partner meetings with Town of Morinville, Redwater, and Sturgeon County, as well as with our neighboring school division with Greater St. Albert Catholic Regional. We met with some of our NDP or our election candidates. Unfortunately, due to wildfires and state of emergency in the province, we did have to cancel, but I do look forward to possibly rebooking our meeting with MLA Shane Getson and MLA Dale Nally, just to make sure that we continue those relationships. It doesn't need to be just election based when we meet with our partners. We need to make sure that we're talking to them often. And as was mentioned earlier, the Career Education Task Force, Shane Getson, I believe, was heading that up. And I feel like that would be a great person to talk to and make sure that that's staying on the board. We held 3 student advisory committee meetings this year, 2 in person, 1 virtually, as was the intention at the end of last year. So good job, everyone, for staying on plan. Sometimes we know that that doesn't always happen. I feel like the advisory committee was very successful. And as it's in its infant stages, we are learning of the purpose and the plan going forward. And I look forward to seeing how that progresses. And of course, the board, I think, did a really good job of representing at various events in our schools. I like the idea that we are now sharing where we're going to be and where we can't be, so that there is equal representation no matter which school you're at. And I am prepared to answer any questions regarding advocacy committee's work plan.
Okay, Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. And not a question, but because this board has the continued priority of building relationships, I just want to say thank you so much to this committee, because you have done a lot of work and I'm really impressed at how far we've gone in the last couple of years. So thank you.
I just have one thing, because I don't want to forget, and I will. I'm already going to say I'm going to will. So can we make a note to put down for advocacy for next year about advocating for the funding for dual credit? In case we don't get the grants. Tasha.
And Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. And in that light, I think, would it be possible for administration to preemptively or proactively schedule our MLAs to come in early September or October sometime, just because it seems that we need quite a lot of lead time on this? Thank you.
Okay, 8.4 Audit, Finance and Human Resources Committee. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. We had a fairly busy year. We were able to recruit 2 external members for our audit committee for the end of this year. We did a full evaluation for the superintendent evaluation. We worked on some ways of presenting the budget for financial transparency. We looked at the challenges with recruiting and retaining staff. And board evaluation is something we haven't quite got to yet, but it's still on the on our radar of how that's going to proceed. The budget, I think, did a good job, and that was approved in May. And the annual financial statements will be prepared for the end of November. And if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. 8.5, Building and Maintenance Committee. Cindy.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. The year-end report for the committee is all here for your information. I will touch on a few points. The joint use and planning agreement has been extended until June of 2025, so that gives our municipalities some extra time to do some planning. The grass cutting and snow clearing, I have to say from our committee, they have done an exceptional job moving forward this year, so thank you. The contracts are in place for the 23-24 school year, and the budget reflects the additional costs of the snow removal. The 3- and 10-year capital plans. The 3-year capital plan was approved by the board in March, and we are reopening the 10-year capital plan, and it's to be reviewed. Aging buildings, Alberta School Board Association and Public School Board Association are going to do some advocacy to talk about our aging infrastructure in our division. And the building maintenance schedule has been followed quite well. Joint use with River Kabar and Ag Society and playgrounds. And I'm prepared to take any questions.
Tasha.
I'm not sure if everybody got it, so I'll mention it here. I was at Nemeo School for an event earlier this month and was stopped by a parent who sits on the Nemeo fundraising committee. And she wanted to share how happy, how grateful the school community and in particular the parents were. They had recently planted, I don't know, hundreds of trees on the playground space bordering the playground. And so they've been diligently maintaining them, and you know, they gather up all these parents with their weed whackers and their lawn mowers, and they were fully prepared to come and mow and weed whack everything. And when they got there, it was just done and the team was leaving. And she just wanted to say how thankful she was to both central office and the O&M team for doing such a wonderful job. So there's some real-time feedback.
Stacy.
All right, I got one more kudos before. Similar story at Morinville Public School. Their chicken coop is open again this year, but due to it was closed because we had to move the portables. So there was a construction zone in there that took a while to get cleaned up, and gratefully the school had asked O&M to come out and kind of clean it up and make sure that it's safe for the kids and the chickens out there. And they went above and beyond the call of duty and made sure that that was done. So yeah, shout out. Thanks.
Cindy.
And I do want to give a shout out because we've been very proactive as a board instead of being reactive when it happens. And thank you to the operations and maintenance for responding to our requests and being proactive. So I think our schools visually from the outside are looking great. You guys are following that schedule and people are noticing. So thank you.
Joe Dwyer, Ward 3. You had mentioned joint use of River Kabar Agriculture Society was done.
Sorry, it wasn't a joint use. It was, we were talking to River Kabar Ag Society. We're not going to have a joint use with them. It would be with Sturgeon County. But we did bring that up in one of the meetings about talking to River Cabaret Society.
But you, sorry,
Yeah, I'm confused.
yeah. Have you met with them yet, or that was just on the list to do?
We just have to be very, very mindful because joint use and planning agreements are not on school divisions. They are part of the Municipalities Act. So it's only municipalities that are required to have joint use and planning agreements. And they have been combined into one, but when we talk about joint use, we already have great joint use agreements in place. And in some cases, those will be adopted as part of the joint use and planning agreement. But for ag societies, other groups that we work with, you would not have a joint use and planning agreement, but that's not to say that you wouldn't then entertain what is a joint use agreement look between the ag society and the division. But it's not around the joint use and planning agreement because that's on municipalities.
I wonder if we should change the language or, sorry, Cindy?
Well, no, because it's not a JUPA, it's just joint use, right?
Okay.
It's like joint use that you would have with any
Okay.
other society, right? It's not a JUPA.
Okay. Any other question? Did that answer?
No, I think there's some follow-up on that, but I think we'll let it go.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to give a shout out to O&M, and they fixed an airflow problem at Gibbon School that they didn't even know that they had. So thank you guys for, they just thought they just had to live with it. And so thank you, O&M, for bringing air back to Gibbon School. 8.6 policy, Janine.
There's a lack of airflow at Oker Park School, just saying. Sorry, policy committee, that's me, sorry. So I feel like we did a lot of work this year. It's in front of you guys. We had a policy meeting. Do I have to do that review first? Where we have referred policy 100 and 230 and 245 are coming later on in this meeting. And 410 and 500, we've kind of reviewed them. They're not quite ready to come, so they should be ready to go in August for our public board meeting in August. And then, so that was our policy meeting. Our year-end report, we've reviewed and forwarded policy 110, 100, 115, 125, 130, 230, 231, 245, 700, 810, 900, and 905. We are busy. And yeah, so some are coming forward. Any questions?
Stacy?
I just want to make a comment and thank the very busy policy committee, which I don't actually sit on, for reopening one of the policies at my request to add some language to it. I appreciate the flexibility and squeezing that into what is already a very busy scheduled year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move on. 8.7 Transportation Committee. Joe.
Joe Dwyer, Ward 3. We did have a meeting on May 24th. And in that meeting, we discussed transportation service budget tracking. There was an extension that was awarded to one of the contractors to bus a CASA mental health service classroom student. And the RFPs for the contract is ending its term, and we're moving to a new term. And we talked about that. And all the contracts were awarded as of May 15th. And they have to be signed by June 15th, which is done. Division uses the Sturgeon County app to request hazards to be removed. Talked about that. Division is introducing a school staggered start process for the 23-24 school year. And we talked a little bit about the new bus pass process and noon transportation that's being offered out. And students riding regular buses are assessed regular fees, and students riding special education buses are exempt from fees. Committee chairs prepared to answer any questions on that on the meeting. Okay, and the report. It's a busy year in transportation. Actually, when you sit back and think about it, we got a lot accomplished this year. We still got lots to go, but there's, I believe there's a lot of comfort around our contract, a lot more comfort around our contractors going forward. But there's lots of clarity in all dimensions of transportation, revenue and expenses, routes, and the 2.4 implications, which were changed. Insurance, there's still some stuff happening in progress, and I know that our government people are looking at that for bus contractors throughout Alberta. Promote positive relationships with our bus contractors. We've been doing that. We had a celebration for them this year. Communication plan for contractors, dispute resolution process. Incorporated in meetings and contracts, engagement with municipalities and stakeholders, discuss walking boundaries and safety for students, which was very important. And we reviewed school attendance areas for transportation and completed as part of the attendance boundaries review, and transportation maps were all provided. Review of choice ridership, funding manual was updated, and fuel contingency. So I believe there's been a lot of clarity brought to a lot of things that we do and where we're advocating for change to help them. And that's our report. If there's any questions.
Cindy.
This is for senior admin, actually. Do we have any more information on the staggered start for the 23-24 school year?
I can start and then John, you can clarify. So our schools, the communication has gone out. We asked our sister schools to work together. And so all communication has gone out by families. Most of it was based on the alphabet. First, last name, 8 is it L, somewhere in there. And then the second, so thank you. And so our schools, we did set deadlines that communication had to go to families, and then we'll make sure that it is clear on the websites and communicated out right before we're getting ready to start up. So it is across the division to be ready to go. And if parents have questions, they of course can reach out to their schools, but we made sure that the communication was coming straight from the schools, so that it was going to families.
Jonathan.
I don't know if there needed a follow-up. Sorry, John Connor, Deputy Superintendent. Apologies for interrupting in the middle of your conversation, Superintendent. But I just, yeah, it was an intent to reduce anxiety, to improve the clarity of communication at the beginning of schools. As you know, beginning of schools are busy and full and rich and exciting come back to school times. But it's also a time when clear communication about who are we together and what are the expectations and all sorts of things that we have seen other divisions do and we've talked through, and we wanted all of our schools instead of some schools to do that staggered. And as I interrupted the superintendent, yes, we asked for A to K to be one day and then L to Z the next, and then everyone on the third day will come in.
Stacey.
Stacey Buga, Ward 5. I apologize, perhaps this isn't the place. This question has come up since our last transportation meeting, but just curious, I know that bell times have changed within the town of Morinville at both our schools. Just to confirm that the contractors were part of this decision making, and that the other school division perhaps was. I know that our transportation department is in communication with lots of different people, so I just want to make sure that all of that was handled, because I may get some questions from my constituents around those issues.
Yes, the contractors, in talking to the bus times, they actually started, the conversation started with Amy to discuss, is this even possible? So I appreciate that it might not accommodate our neighboring school division, but when we first implemented the times, as you know, it was a long process. Any of you who are aware, when we were in the beginning of designing and building Four Winds, there was a long study into what would bell times look like. And that was a engagement asking stakeholders, looking at efficiencies for transportation. How do we do a double route, getting kids to school? And the decision at the time was made to have Four Winds start early. It has been a struggle since the beginning, is if you are aware, an 8 o'clock start time is very early for kids. And there are schools in the province that start at that time. It's difficult. And to get kids up and already learning at that time, I mean, that's for almost 45 minutes ahead of any of our other schools. And so it has been asked for a while if we could revisit it. Almost from the minute the doors opened, it was really asked to say, this is really early for our kiddos and we're really noticing it in our kids. And so we've been looking at it for a very, very long time. And so I just want you to know transportation was in from the beginning to look, how do we do this with the least disruption to our families and to do what's best for kids? So it was not a slow process. We're actually probably looking at it for over 2 years just to see how do we entertain it. And so in working, it was always, Amy was part of those discussions from the beginning and talking to the contractors, how do we make this work? And so while we do appreciate sometimes the traffic flow, again, our job is education and looking what's best for our students. And it has truly been the voice of that early start. Is there any way we could push it back even a little bit? So we are very happy to do so. But it was a very long communication process to make sure that it was not having, and we actually took time to go through what would the unintended consequences be on both ends. And so Amy was part of those discussions from day one to make sure that they could implement it. And I don't know if Mr. Conrad, is anything else that he would like to add to that?
John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Just to echo, a big driver in this decision was student learning and was voiced from our parents and our teaching staff reflecting on how the operation has happened, being 45 minutes earlier than, as was said, every one of our other schools. So it is focused on the best learning for our kids.
Thank you. 9.1, Alberta School Board Association. Janine.
Janine Peckman, Ward 1. I think we talked about everything that happened at our COW meeting. So I guess in the public forum, ASBA had their spring general meeting and approved their budget and any emergent resolutions for the coming years, which off the top of my head, I have no idea what they were. So it's on their website. Or Irene or Stacy can elaborate.
I think that's good. It's on the website. 9.2, Public School Board Association of Alberta. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. The PSBAA Spring General Assembly was held from June 1st to 3rd in Calgary. The theme was hope and optimism and the future. So it was very nice. As I reported in the committee of the whole meeting, my summary, as well as any material that was provided by the presenters, is posted on our Google Drive. So upcoming is PSBC in Medicine Hat from August 9th to 11th, if anyone is interested. The PSBAA Fall Conference and AGM will be October 18th to 20th in Edmonton. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. On to new business. 10.1, 22-23 capital projects funded through capital reserves. Shauna.
So this does actually, it requires board approval. So there is a motion that is required, and we are asking that the Board of Trustees approve the capital projects for 22-23 as presented here. As you're giving your shout outs to facilities, I want to thank Mike Wepler at very last minute for coming to support in this. And so you will notice as part of the budget approval process for the 22-23 school year that the board approved the capital projects that are listed there. Sturgeon Heights Wait Gym Room, Redwater Front Entrance, the lighting retrofit, Gibbons School Entrance, and Lenning Trail Roof as part of the budget approval process back in May of 2022. So if you were to go back to last year, this was very similar. So what tends to happen during the year is those are approved as the capital projects, and then things change. Sometimes, as you know, you've heard our associate of corporate services say many times either supplies don't arrive or project takes longer, so it doesn't get completed in the year that it's intended for. So that original table and what you approved as a budget process has now shifted. And I have asked Mike, he's going to speak to it, because what we're asking for is the approval of the 4 projects that are listed below. And so I'm just going to ask him just to give a quick summary so that the board understands why we're asking for this approval of these 4 different ones. And they're not all removed. The retrofit, of course, is that 1.8 million remains the same. And many of you have commented, you've seen CCANs outside of schools. And yes, those house lights right now. But I am going to, if board chair is good with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Wepler to continue.
Mike Wepler, Facilities Manager. So the lighting retrofit is from last year, as Sean had talked about. We're also asking for 550,000 for Sturgeon Comp Fieldhouse. Pembina has given a huge donation of money, which would be matching the amount of money that we're asking for to help that project move along. We have been in contact with an architect to do preliminary design and drawings. So that project is slowly moving forward. Just looking for that money so we can secure the funding. Sidewalks for Gibbons and Landing Trail School. So we've looked at different projects from last year. The facelift for Gibbons and Redwater. Sidewalks in front of Gibbons School are actually a bigger concern than maybe doing a facelift to the school. They're actually a tripping hazard, and this needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. And along with Landing Trails, Lillian Schick School, we had started the sidewalk project last year, and we're just looking to continue that this year as well, finish that off. And then there's the $600,000 to remove asbestos from the maintenance building. That project is mostly complete at this point in time. We're just kind of finishing up the office area, but a lot of that project and the asbestos has been continued and removed that concern. There are also a few other projects that we're looking at doing here or in the process of starting. So I know there was a huge talk about the weight room as well from Sturgeon Heights School. When we did get our pricing back from the architect, it far exceeds the $100,000 that were allotted for that. So that was some of the money we moved into doing sidewalks as well. So we just kind of shifted that money over into priorities that need to be taken care of right now. That weight room was about $350,000. So it's not a cheap project to move forward with at this time. So at Sturgeon Heights, we are doing classroom renovations, which are actually starting on Friday. We're going to start demoing classrooms and starting to retrofit and redesign those classrooms and make them more functional and bring them up to date inside that school. That's not coming out of board funded money. That's going to be processed through IMR funding. So we're going to carry on that project throughout the summer and then into the next school year as well. We are also through IMR funding. We are going to be renovating washrooms in Redwater and Oprah Park schools. We're doing 4 washrooms in Oprah Park, 2 boys and 2 girls. And in Redwater School, we're doing 2 boys washrooms. That's all expected to be completed by the end of summer. In Redwater as well, we are basically completely redoing the gym. So the floor should be in the process right now of being ripped out. Once that's ripped out, next week we're going to start repainting the entire gym, and then the new floor will come back in after that, and it should be complete by the end of summer. I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Cindy.
Wow, we have a lot of major projects going on in our division. That's really nice to see, but I can't help but kind of cruise over this, that Pembina Pipeline has verbally agreed to give us 550,000 to our division for a field house. Like, that's a huge shout out and partnership that we have with Pembina Pipeline. So that is huge. So thank you.
just to follow that up, they're also the high school, they're working on grants as well for bringing in money. So it's not just going to be money from us and money from them. Like they are looking for grants too. So. Tasha.
I was wondering if anybody would speak to the last two projects, just for clarification's sake, on the first page of the document. Given school entrance, landing trail roof, both have asterisks. And am I mistaken, landing trails roof is still not done? And given school, it's dependent on value scoping, but maybe just, can you speak a little bit to that?
So, sorry, given school entrance, I think I touched on this a little bit. So we shifted the money from there into the sidewalk. It's more of an immediate concern. That sidewalk all along the front is cracked and chipped and it's all over the place. It presents actually a tripping hazard. So we kind of shifted our thought process from just a facelift of a school to fixing a concern. So that was our thought process on that one. The landing trail roof, the roofing prices have skyrocketed, and so the actual cost of doing that was significantly higher. So we shifted our thought process into more immediate concerns where that roof can wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, I didn't understand it that way, but thanks for clarifying.
Janine?
Just, I want to thank you for the flexibility in shifting what higher priorities come out of. Like, I know we approved it, so thank you for explaining why some of those didn't go through and why we've shifted. I really appreciate it. And on that note, I am going to sign out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Shauna?
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to Mike because in reading this memo, and I want to thank him for supporting in this discussion because the board did approve these capital projects, something that we will implement immediately beginning next year for the Building and Maintenance Committee, that as per what you just approved for the capital projects as part of the 23-24 budget process, we will ensure that every building and maintenance meeting that we review those so that the board clearly understands that, oh, hey, you did approve to have Sturgeon Heights weight room and gym, but as looking at working with the principal, actually looking at the needs of the school, as you know how much deferred maintenance we have in this division when any priorities get shifted. And that's why thank you to Mike for coming to speak to that. That even though you would prove that as it gets shifted through the year, that if we have to ask, and as you know, as Trustee Briggs just said, summer's very busy, so everybody else is getting ready to leave and facilities and IT are getting ready to go full bore into our schools. And our summer projects, as Mike said, they're like kids are out of school, we're in and we're starting. And so just so that the board understands. So that is our commitment to improve the process for understanding for this board that the Building and Maintenance Committee will always be reviewing these and to review the IMR, like look at our deferred maintenance and the priorities so that when we get to this, that when you see a discrepancy between the two there, you've had the whole year to understand why there were shifts. So I do apologize for that. We will ensure it's more clear moving forward.
Stacy?
Just a quick question based on comments I heard earlier today. I was at École Morinville Public and you had mentioned, you know, different pockets of funding and where you're doing kind of smaller things that aren't capital. They'd mentioned that their offices are getting renovated or painting, or they're not quite sure exactly what's happening there. Just curious kind of where those come from and if we might be painting the gym too over there. Hopeful.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stacey, I completely skipped over that one on my notes here. Inside our lighting funding pocket, where we were able to cut costs and we're able to actually fit inside that pocket of money through the board funded to actually do some work inside Morinville Public as well. So through the core of the building, we're going to that yellow tile floor for the main hallways. We're going to replace all of that. So there's going to be a new flooring going through there. In the office areas, we're going to repaint, redo the flooring in there and their workroom next to it. We're going to redo the flooring, paint. We're also going to replace the ceiling throughout the main core of the building. The T-bar will be all replaced with new, and we're going to change it out with LED lights as well.
Okay, the only question I have, which you might not have the answer to, and that is okay. And you might not have the answer to. So we had approved the 1.8 in the energy retrofit for the 23-24, which is working, and you're moving your way through and you're almost done, and fingers crossed you'll be completed in the summer maybe. So this 1.8 million energy retrofit for capital projects is not an additional 1.8. It's still that 1.8 from before. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, there's no money. There's no money you're approving. You've already done that. This is changes within that. So it's the project. So there's no additional funds required. This is just approving the actual projects that are part of the capital projects to be completed during this school year, a shift in which ones, so that we can get them done this summer.
Okay. So, oh, sorry, Cindy, do you? Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, can I get someone to make a motion? Cindy,
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the capital projects for 22-23 school year as presented at the June 28th public board meeting.
all in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Do we need a 5-minute bathroom break? Okay, so we're gonna take 5 minutes. Welcome back, everybody online. Okay, moving along, 10.2 organizational and first public board meeting 23-24. This one, is this one mine or yours? Okay, I'm gonna read it. So as stated in the policy of 235, conduct of board meetings, the organizational meeting of the board shall be held annually at the August board meeting, which this year is going to be August 23rd. At the organizational meeting, the board will establish the dates, start time, and place of regular meetings, as well as committee membership. Following the organizational meeting in August is the first public board meeting of the 23-24 school year will commence. So I need a motion to approve the date of August 23rd, which is the fourth Wednesday of August, to hold our organizational and first public board meeting here at 9. Tasha.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the date, August 23rd, 2023, for the organizational meeting and the first public board meeting of the 23-24 school year to be held at the Frank Robinson Educational Center in Mornville at 9 a.m.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.3, Student Advisory Committee Establishment and Schedule. 23-24. Shauna.
I don't know if John wants to speak to this, but it was the board did ask this because we knew it was a request from the advocacy committee, correct? This is where this is coming from, that we actually set these dates, look at our schools, especially coming out of COVID, that we wanted to make sure that we're looking at when do we usually have parent teacher interview nights, stay away from those days, how do we make it organized? If we get it to our schools well ahead of time for the end of this school year, that the dates would be set in stone and we can remind them to try to not book anything else. So we make sure that the kids are available to attend. So we are looking for approval and a motion is required. And we are looking that the board approves that the student advisory committee meeting dates and format for the 23-24 school year as laid out below. So we would be looking at the advocacy that was from the advocacy meeting on June 7th. That's where this came from. And so we would like to have the first meeting on November 28th in person, the second meeting on February 27th online, and the third meeting on May 28th in person.
Can I get a motion? Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I motion that the Board of Trustees approve the Student Advisory Committee meeting dates and format for the 2023-2024 school year as provided at the June 28th, 2023 public board meeting.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Just on the memo, I don't know if it matters, but it does say May 2023 instead of May 2024.
Yeah, so we need to fix that. Because February would be 2024 as well. And it doesn't even have a year. Thank you. 10.4, authorization of junior high locally developed optional courses. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is bringing forward a request for direction through motion on the approval of a single junior high locally developed course. And before I read through the specifics, I will remind the board of the CTF framework that has come into place in junior high. The CTF framework allows schools, without going through this process of defining this curriculum, bringing it to the board for approval, to actually offer optional courses that may take 6 weeks, it may take 2 months, a little bit more fluid, provided they match that framework, which is really about skill development, project development, and see through to completion. And in that way, you can address projects within technology or projects within foods or projects within. And so that is why we used to bring many junior high courses to the board. And now there's one that our teachers still enjoy. And before you for review is the academic skill builders. This doesn't quite fit the CTF framework. And so this is the layout and designed by Sturgeon teachers can't recall the year. It was in place when I came here to Sturgeon School Division. So Academic Skill Builders has been in play for some time. But if we want to continue to offer it, and I'm letting you know our teachers have asked, we did talk to admin, they still want it in our junior high classes or to be able to offer it in junior high classes. Not every junior high offers it. And so for your review, you can see the course outline and the goals of this course is to grow our young people in understanding how to be successful students, how to learn, how to organize, and how to improve their academics. So we are seeking for your approval of this course outline so we can offer it for the next 3 years. Prepared to take questions.
Pasha.
Sorry, Stacy. Okay, just a quick question. I understand teachers enjoy it, want to continue with it. What is the uptake from students? Are we directing students into this program to fill it? Are they optionally taking it? What is the sort of composition of student participation?
Well, it is offered in optional blocks, so it is not a required course, except schools have definitely talked to parents and students to say this is a skill development course that will set you up for success. I know a couple of our schools make it near non-optional, still options, not a core course, for their grade 7 students, specifically as they enter junior high. So it is certainly strongly encouraged, but it remains an optional course within the Sturgeon School.
And so the uptake is positive?
I'm not prepared to give statistical analysis of the exit slips from students, but teachers enjoy it and believe it brings value to our students. I do have that feedback.
And sorry, just to clarify, it's just like for our locally developed courses that come to you every year for approval for high school. This is because, as John said, when CTF came in for junior high, it captured most of what we were doing, which means it didn't require board approval. This is a long-standing course. It's used very differently throughout our schools. This is not about we're bringing it forward for approval because it's popular by students. This is to ensure we're actually doing what is required legislatively to offer this type of course. It actually needs board approval. That's why it's coming back, because this was a catch to go, wait a second, this course does not fit the CTF requirements. Therefore, it actually does need to be approved because it's a locally developed course. So that's the reason this is not coming from student interest or anything. This is a catch to go, wait a minute, we actually were approving it. CTF came in, which has been in for a long time. And, you know, I think an assumption may have been made that it was captured. And all of a sudden when you look at it, it's like, no, actually the board should be approving this. It's a locally developed course. It doesn't fit inside the CTF guidelines. So that's why it's coming forward. Not new, not student driven. This is something to make sure that if a school would like to use it, they now have dotted their I's, crossed their T's, they can use it.
Cindy?
So if we feel, or if you feel quite strongly about this course, that you're setting up students for success, why are we making it optional? Why are we not exposing all of our students to this so they could be successful? And how would we do that?
Well, I would say if we speak more broadly about curriculum, that is our job as teachers, that we have study skills, habits, all that kind of stuff really embedded throughout everything that we do. This is, and I'd say if you look at our options, even sometimes that are offered in some of our schools, we have taken different things along this line. And I don't know which school this is actually driven from that's done it, but I would say this, we have these discussions. I mean, we have everything from our health classes to COM, all that kind of stuff, where we look at kids to say, this is what good study habits look like. We do a lot of that teaching anyways. Like I said, this is just to make sure, because it's been off our radar for a while and we have been using it. So we wanted to make sure that it actually was approved by the board.
I just have one comment. Is there some way, I like it. I do like the program. I think it has been I don't know if it represented or misspoken about. because a lot of people, at least in my community, think, well, it's just a homework block. And so kids don't like it. And so I would like to see that communication shift. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. And I can resonate with that perception, as I resonate with the perception that career and life management is not an important course in high school. And hear feedback from our stakeholders, I wish we taught finances, or I wish we taught, which we do in career and life management. We also do it early in junior high health. It's part of the grade 9 health curriculum as well. And I take that as an encouragement to work with admin and teachers that offer this as an essential skills course, that the communication is around building our young people to be successful and not a homework block. Thank you.
Any other questions about this? I think the only other question that I have to ask, it's Janine's question. So you had said it's locally developed. Will we be, tooting our horn to other people about this? Like other people toot their horns and we take their courses? Jonathan?
Junior high locally developed courses, because they resonate and stay local, aren't part of a network that we share with other divisions.
Okay.
Senior high courses are part of a provincial network.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay. So I need someone to make the motion. Trish.
Trish Morielli at Ward 4. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the authorization of the junior high locally developed optional course, academic skill building, to be authorized as a course of study within Sturgeon Public School Division from September 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026.
Are there any questions on the motion? Cindy?
This might have been asked earlier, but is it across all our schools or is only selected schools partaking in this?
The request of the board is to approve it, so any of our schools could use it. It's not mandated to our schools. It remains an optional course. I hear the encouragement to ensure it is used in our schools. The ask of the board, and I believe the motion on the table, is to approve it so we could use it in our schools.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving along to 10.5. Omnibus. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Connor, Deputy Superintendent. Try to navigate this more clearly. Each year, the board is required to review, to look and consider approval for use within our schools. These are locally developed. They have the same name, but in this case, these are Calgary Board of Education courses, but courses that are not put forward by Alberta Education, instead curricula that was written by any school division. And in high school, there is a full website where we have, it's been asked before, I certainly brought our high school administrators, principals and vice principals and counselors to, they share with their teachers. Here is the menu of unique and optional courses. They, if approved, remain available for offering with students for the term listed here. It's usually, I think it's 4 years for high school. This again does not mandate that we teach these courses, but if the board decides that we are not interested in allowing us to use these courses, then we cannot put these in front of our students. It is yours to decide whether we can offer or we do not offer these courses. Provided for you here are the outlines that were laid out by Calgary Board of Education. Did some review on these ones, and I'll let you know, we didn't teach one of these this year, which gives me no ability to speak to student interest. I don't have 2 years of student interest on this, but in talking with the staff, especially because it's a 4-year window, if we say no, we can bring it back. We just miss a year cycle, and but they, talking to some longer standing teachers, they have used creative writing publishing courses. They wanted the ability to offer that even next semester. And they only have the ability if the board indicates that they would approve these courses. And that's why administration is seeking board approval through motion for the courses listed here for the term from September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2027. I need to amend what's in front of you, and I apologize. Creative Writing Publishing 35. If I may do this audibly and we can write it down, there is a Creative Writing and Publishing 35 for 3 credits, and it's not on your list. So if in consideration of this request, you could also consider that we have actually 6, not the 5 courses in front of you. I would be appreciative if you would consider that. I can take more questions, but we're seeking approval through motion.
Stacy.
Stacy Bucco, Ward 5. Out of curiosity, I know some of the ones that we have approved last year come out as modules that are through an InReach program as opposed to an instructor-based program. I'm just curious, is this one intended to be taught in class with a teacher, or is this intended to be a module-based program?
This time feedback was gathered from in-person instructors. So my belief, since it was positive from in-person instructors that they were interested in offering it, but it would not preclude the outreach centers from offering this through module instruction. It just, as was kind of asked with junior high courses, if approved, these courses could be offered at our learning centers, could be offered in person in Redwater and Sturgeon Composite, or it could be an InReach course. So I'm not saying you wouldn't see a module expression of this, but the feedback gathered around these courses was from classroom-based instructors.
Any other questions? Cindy.
I find this one quite tricky in the kind of the time we're in right now with artificial intelligence. This is a really interesting concept for high school students to take a course or have artificial intelligence do it for you. So yeah, this is probably nothing that's ever been brought up at the board table before or in the history of high school. So this is a really interesting predicament that we're all being put into.
I was just going to comment, I agree, but AI is not going away, so we better figure out how to use it. And this is a course that kids would want to take. So it's unlike English 30, where you can use ChatGPT to write your essay for you. We're assuming that the kids want to be in this class to learn how to creatively write and publish. So, yeah, but interesting take on AI. Gonna live with that one. Stacey.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just same kind of comment as I think that this class is going to be very valuable. I think a lot of kids would love to take creative writing alongside, the English 30 and, the mandatory stuff. This is a little bit more fun when it comes to writing. And I really hope that it sees a teacher in front of that class, because feedback and creative juices don't flow quite so easy in a module or in an InReach classroom. And especially with these opportunities to engage with AI and how that differs. And sorry. Yeah, if there's no other comments, I would make the motion.
Okay, I'll call for a motion.
I motion that the Board of Trustees approve the following locally developed courses as courses of study within Sturgeon Public School Division from September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2027. Creative Writing and Publishing 15 for 3 credits and 5 credits. Creative Writing and Publishing 25 for 3 credits and 5 credits, and Creative Writing and Publishing 35 for 3 credits and 5 credits.
Any questions on the motion? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Well, she added that one in. Hopefully it'll be captured in our minutes. As I scroll all the way down in my computer, we're going to move on to 10.6, Policy 100, History of Sturgeon Public Schools. Donna?
I will start, but I would like to turn it over to whether it's trustee Buka, I believe, who brought this one forward and the again was yes, thank you. So as a board, you are responsible to review board policies on an ongoing basis in order to adhere to the requirements necessary to provide excellence in public education and comply with the Education Act and provincial as well as federal legislation. So policy 100, History of Sturgeon Public Schools, was brought forward by trustee Buga. It has been to the policy committee, and this does require, this is yours, policy is yours, so it does require a motion for approval. And now I do suggest the board chair passes it on to either Mr. Conrad, who sat at the beginning, or to trustee Buga, just to speak as to why it was brought forward.
Stacey?
Stacey Buga, Ward 5. This came up in policy last year. And what we thought would be a quick review of it, we realized that it really makes no sense as a policy, being a, X number of page document. That is not what a policy is. So at that time, early last year, we decided that the policy itself should reflect why we value having a history, and then the history should be included in an appendix as what you see here today.
Any questions? Okay, so can I have a motion? Tasha?
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 100, History of Sturgeon Public Schools, as recommended by the Policy Committee and presented at the June 28th, 2023 Public Board meeting.
Any questions on the motion? Trish?
Sorry, and I should know this because I'm on the policy committee, but how did we decide we were going to change Appendix A? Like, if add to it, or as we have these schools, or something?
Captured in the policy is that as we update it every year, we'll bring it to the board and the administrative council. So both school leadership and board leadership will see the changes in October each year. So the appendix will continue to be updated annually as indicated in the policy.
Further questions?
Yep. So we talk about how in 2011, there was a big change in Morinville. 2012, the government transferred. Yeah. And did I hear that we actually had students in Legal School for a while at that time? Should that be recorded in the history? Was it just for 1 year?
Not sure it's my place to speak in questions on a motion, but as some ideas that could be put forward in an appendix, I can commit to the board to coming back next fall with suggestions. of changes, as was noted, the history of having students in Legal. I can come back with that.
Yeah, I recommend that we don't hold up passing this policy, that we do look at it every year and it is something that we'll make a note of to make sure that when it comes across that that gets captured. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, 10.7, policy 230. Oh, Shauna?
Again, I would like somebody from the policy committee or Mr. Conrad just to speak to this, because I know that this actually was driven with a purpose, looking at some of the changes that advocacy committee and the board been discussing on some of your advocacy into the public and some of your goals as a board was one of the reasons why this policy was reviewed.
Yes, sorry. I'll speak to that. I just had to get to it. So if you notice on the track changes, because I have to use the track changes. We added in that we had the representative and one alternate because it hadn't been before for ASBA and PSBA. We didn't have the virtual academy. We have just started with Chambers, and it's not on there, and Morinville Rotary. So we wanted to capture all of the membership that we paid for so that we were getting reports and could fall back on it. So that was the what happened with this policy and why we looked at the board committees, just to clean it up, shall we say, a little bit better. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, being part of the discussions, just to highlight very clearly for trustees that weren't in those discussions, that 3.2 appointed representative shall report to the board on a regular basis. I think was a part of the lively conversation, in addition to the appointments and the one alternate and the capturing of SPVA, as you've highlighted, Chair, but that it was quite clear that the trustees wanted to ensure that as we have representatives, that representatives are given an opportunity to share.
Yes, that is correct, because we do the reports, but we actually didn't have it in our policy stating that we do the reports. Nope.
Just one thing on the margin.
Oh. Good catch. We need to make that adjustment. So if I can get a motion with the amendment of 3.3.8 being Morinville Sturgeon Rotary. Oh, Stacy.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Sorry, I've just got one more question, just because I'm curious. Have we ever belonged to things like Lions or any of our other service groups, or is the reason Rotary is the one? Are they part of our division more so, or 4-H? I don't know. There's lots of service clubs.
I can only speak for Gibbons. Gibbons did have a Lions Club at once and then doesn't have a Lions Club now. So I think the Rotary is the one that's been the stable one within Sturgeon County.
I don't know as to what the purpose was of membership, but in the past it was a rotating. So there was one membership, but the trustees rotated. So that was the history, but I cannot speak to as to when or the membership started. Unless there's some other senior member at the moment that could speak to it, because I don't know when it actually started.
So why don't we belong to 4-H if we belong to Rotary?
I think I have the answer. Like Tasha Oatman Clay, Ward 6. I think the answer, I think this all started very innocently and very casually as parents who sat on parent council and or board positions and also participated in Rotary, and the connection between Rotary and our school divisions and our schools within our divisions was reinforced by the fact that said person sat in both sort of areas or participated in both areas. And it was that casual connection that built the relationship we have now. And 4-H has always been part of Ag Society world more so than the Rotary. So as an example, in Nemeo, 4-H and the Ag Society are really connected very strongly, and Rotary in the school through the Ag Society tends to be pretty tight, but it's always the same people sitting in all of the same spots, if that makes sense. It began very casually. It was reinforced over time.
And I don't know the history either. I know in policy committee, when we talked about this, it's not saying that we can't look at relationships and supporting 4-H or joining 4-H. These were the ones that we identified that we pay memberships for. So therefore we should reflect in the policy that even though we do give reports, that our policy reflects that we give reports, because that piece was missing. Plus the addition of the chamber meetings, because we've just kind of started joining them all. Okay. Can I get a motion now? Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 230 board committees as recommended by the Policy Committee and presented at the June 28th, 2023 public board meeting.
Any questions on the motion? I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Motion carried, unanimous. Okay, moving on to policy 245. Anna.
So policy 245 came up as part of the regular review. And so this policy has administration has gone through policy, and it also went through policy committee. And so if you compare the current policy to the new rewrite, there was a lot of changes. So I'm just going to walk through just some of the things so that the board understands why certain things may have been removed. So the policy committee did walk through the entire policy, and the committee did look at it very closely to ensure that all areas regarding the board's role in the appeal process is still captured. And it was compared to the current policy to the rewrite to ensure that nothing was lost. So 2.1, which was dispute resolution, that is currently captured in AP 221 very clearly. That is the AP titled Focused and Effective Communication. 2.2, the appeal process, that remains because this is the board's role for appeals on student matters. 2.3, appeal of a teacher. It's currently captured in AP 720, teacher staffing certification and placement, and specifically Appendix A, hearings on teacher transfers. So it was redundancy, it was repeated twice. And Appendix A, appeal hearing, it's now been moved completely into the policy. So it is basically the same. It's just been moved right into policy. Also, the board, we are guided by the legislation outlined in the Education Act. And government, as you know, Education Act changes often. And so to ensure that our policies are not misaligned with the Education Act, because appeals are very clearly laid out in the Education Act, we also didn't want to have redundancy or to have a conflict because you are guided by the Education Act. And if you're just wondering about for discipline hearings, we already have that very clearly laid out. And also if the board makes a decision at a discipline hearing, that any appeal that a parent would have with the board decision, that actually goes straight to the minister. So that is how that policy has been updated.
Any questions? Sorry, I think I have one, but I could be confused. Because we did go through this at policy committee. We had this rewrite policy 225, 220, what is it, 221? 201?
Yes, for trustee. Yes.
Yeah. And so anything that like it, we basically did just, if it was duplicated here, it's still captured in the board roles in our other policies. So does anybody have any question? Can I get someone to make the motion? Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I motion that the Board of Trustees approve and approve the revised Board Policy 245 appeals regarding student matters as recommended by the Policy Committee and presented at the June 28th, 2023 public board meeting.
Any questions on the motion? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving on to 10.9, policy 905, awards and recognition policy. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is seeking approval through motion of the amended policy 905 awards and recognition, or renamed to awards and recognition. This was brought forward by trustees to consider to include a belief statement clarifying the importance of community partners who do support education and a clear guideline to ensure all schools will recognize those individuals or organizations annually. The policy committee reviewed it a few times. It then, under their direction, went to the administration council, which is principals, to unpack. Is this aligned with what we are already doing, or could it be aligned with what we're already doing in schools? That feedback came back to policy committee, and you can see, especially in the track changes, the clear additions of a belief statement that the board believes in a strong partnership with communities, organizations, and businesses, and believe it is important to recognize individuals or organizations who have made a significant contribution to advancing the mission, vision, and values of Sturgeon Public Schools, and then in the guidelines to ensure that this happens annually. I'm prepared to take any questions to the policy, or anyone from the policy committee, of course, could speak more to the conversation that happened, knowing that we are hoping to receive direction through motion.
Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I just want to say thank you to the policy committee for how this came about. I sat in on quite a few of the meetings, not all of them, but I know that this one, we were very intentional, and admin did a lot of work to make sure that there weren't unintended consequences. Our intention of celebrating our sponsors and the people who are participating in our schools seemed like a simple idea, but it wasn't. And so I really appreciate the work that went into creating the policy as it is here today to make sure that the options are open for any type of individual or organization, and for our schools to recognize them in a way that fits what they're already doing, with the plaque, something that has some longevity to it. So I appreciate the effort that went into this.
Okay. Can I get a motion Tasha?
You were gonna say Trasha.
Well, I was gonna start with Trish and then I'm like, wait, no, that's Tasha.
And when you combine the two,
Yeah.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 905 Awards and Recognition Policy as recommended by the Policy Committee and presented at the June 28th, 2023 Public Board Meeting.
Any questions on the motion? I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So we have no unfinished business. No notice of motion. 13, information. I would actually ask Helen Lawrence online if she can get unmuted so that she could talk to us about the summer programming with Shine, and I have just blanked on it.
Redwater Hype.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This was I would have done my hair had I known, but this is me. So thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to let you know about what's happening this summer. Our Shine team will continue to shine over the summer. We will be working and doing wraparound at probably the most important time in July and August when everybody steps away. Our team leans in. And one of the really valuable things that we do in partnership with Redwater Hype is we provide programming in all of the communities across Sturgeon County. And it's not even about what we're doing, it's about promoting what is out there for our families to be able to have the opportunity to see things that they might not have explored on their own. Just because maybe their child has a behavior. So maybe they wouldn't go because they're worried about how their child might struggle in the situation. So we do a full wraparound where we provide the place, the program, and the people to wrap around so that they feel supported and safe, so that they can try it again on their own, as well as connect families to each other so that they maybe we'll find a friend. And that's why we actually call this our Find Your Village Summer Edition, so that we continue to do the work that we were doing with the families, connecting the parents all year. Now we add the children into the mix and have programming for the full family. So it's siblings, it's moms, it's dads, it's caregivers, it's everybody. And it is all across the division. It is every Wednesday between 1 and 3. And it's for families from the past, the families that we currently serve, and some of the families that might be coming onto our contract in, like we might be getting a contract within September or later on in the year. A really great way for them to see us in action so that they'll never say no. They'll be like, who do you want for a service provider? We want the Shine Beyond Limits team. So, and we're very excited to be doing it together. So our first event is next Wednesday here at Gibbon School. We're having a teddy bear picnic. And just this morning, all the home facilitators gathered together to talk about what we're going to do. And it's going to be a really big one on Wednesday where they have hot dogs and a tent that they have, bouncy castle that they have. So that's going to be our first one. We even have one in Redwater on a Sunday. So for those families that maybe can't come because it's during the week and they work, we rented Redwater Pool in July. So they'll be able to come to Redwater Pool for the 2 hours that we rented the entire pool. We have Cardiff Hall we're going to. We have Guthrie School we're going to. We have Gibbons Spray Park here that we're going to. We try to utilize Mornville Spray Park, but it's closed. So if it does open up, we're gonna go there if it does open up. And then our final Find Your Village summer edition is at the zoo in Edmonton, where we all go for a full day, and that's our final one, and that's the 23rd of August. That last Wednesday before we're all back. Well, we're all back that week too, but before the families are getting ready to be back for school. And it's just a day of celebration, connection, and fun. So that's our summer.
Thank you.
Not sure if anyone have any questions.
Thank you, Helen.
It
And
was
community members can come, right?
everybody is welcome. It's from 0 to 99. So
If you're looking
anybody,
for something to do this summer.
Yep.
On Wednesday, find Shine and
Yep.
Hype.
yep. And we have it on our Facebook page as well for registration, just so we have numbers, so we ensure we have enough supplies for everybody as well. So looking
Awesome.
forward to a great summer.
Thank you very much, Helen.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I don't believe we have anybody from ATA and CUPE. No other community members. No media. No requests. Can I get a motion to go in camera? Tasha? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So we're going in camera online.